I'm hungry. We start the show. I can't help it because what happens is we're talking about breakfast.
Yes.
We start getting into sausage, egg, and cheese sandwiches, and whether it's on a roll,
bacon, roll
bagels, you go sausage, you go, and that's it. Like, and we were talking also about what pairs best with it, and I'm thinking of like raspberry iced tea.
So I'm
the
not
orange juice thing. That's old school. It's too much acid, too acidic.
Let me get comfortable here.
You know? But I'm a big breakfast person. I don't get to have breakfast here. And Key is sending us. Key will be back later in the week. Key is sending us pictures of him making avocado toast, which looked, by the way, amazing.
First of all, hard eye roll to your co-host captain sending pictures. I was like, bring breakfast when you come back by. I don't want to talk to you.
Right. He said, we can't have this on set. No, yes, we can,
Don't
Key.
bring
yes,
it.
We can.
Like, don't tease us. Also, breakfast for me, so I'm not a big juice girl unless it's like legit fresh pressed juice.
Okay.
But breakfast for me is usually like omelet, avocado toast, omelet, spinach, mushrooms, onions.
That sounds good.
Avocado toast.
Yeah.
The one deli near us, you can get a fresh pressed juice. It's called the Hangover Helper. Apple, beet, ginger, and orange. And there might be something else.
Ginger always seems to be in everything
delicious.
that.
I'm obsessed with ginger.
Yeah.
I said to my friend the other day, can I name my future kid Ginger? She was like, no, name the dog Ginger. Don't name a kid Ginger.
Why wouldn't you?
Fine.
Why?
I don't know,
Ginger
that's what
was
she
one
said.
of the most popular characters in the history of
There
sitcoms.
you go. There you go.
So why wouldn't you go? Bring it back. It's a classic name.
I think Ginger's an adorable name. Listen, there's no naming of children right now in my life, so let's move on.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
We shall move on. If you could put a name on game one, what would you put on it?
Stinker.
Really?
Yeah.
You weren't thrilled by this?
I love this Phoenix Suns squad, and I picked them to win the series, but it wasn't as compelling a game that I was hoping
You're
for.
right. 118-105 didn't feel like, and again, it's 13. Was there a point at all in that game that you were like, oh, the Bucks are going to make a push here, or the Bucks have got this, or it felt like the Suns felt like they were in control from the get. I mean, it just seemed like there was nothing the Bucks could do defensively. We're going to do our overreactions to game ones coming up in a little bit because we love doing that after game. It's just like week one of the NFL. We go nuts. We also do game one as well. But it's just like it felt like the Suns were always in control here. They felt like the more prepared team. And Chris Paul was fantastic in his NBA Finals debut.
Almost everybody was fantastic in their NBA Finals debut. Everybody wearing orange or purple, that is, on that side.
Devin Booker couldn't make a three, but other than that, he was.
Yeah,
very
you know,
good.
I get that he couldn't make a three, but what is he, 10 for 10 from the free throw line? I mean, that's legit, and it's easy points there. Listen, I had the privilege of joining the pre-halftime and post-game coverage last night with Kevin Winter, PJ Carlesimo, and then, of course, Mark Castor, Doris Burke, and John Barry were on the call. So listening to those guys up close as we prepared to, get in and out on the radio call, Barry's like, what are they doing on his screen? Like, nobody can defend Chris Paul over the course of the game, which we all could see. And so for that, it felt like it was never going to be a contest. Winter and I were like, this is a wrap. And of course, Coach Carlesimo, with all of his experience, is like, I don't know, the Bucks just scored 11 straight. They're going to make a run. And they did. But when you get to 9 and Cam Johnson makes this tremendous defensive stance on your MVP,
right? Well,
there goes that.
Yeah, that's the problem too. When you're down by so much, like it's so hard to make that kind of a comeback. You can score 11 in a row, and it only puts a dent, and all it takes is that one big shot to stop the momentum. As you mentioned, though, look, and we've kind of felt this about. Remember the Bucks against the Nets, and Mike Budenholzer. And it's like you got to make adjustments. You got to make adjustments.
48 point.
The switching on screens is something that it's become a thing in the NBA. 1 through 5, we can switch. A lot of teams feel that way. We feel confident no matter who it is, they can guard. But when you go big, when you have Bobby Portis out there or Brook Lopez out there, you can't do that. And other teams see that, and they're going to put you up and try to get that matchup they want. That's how you run things. That's why Monty Williams had such a great game plan. Tim Legler, ESPN NBA analyst, of course, he was on SportsCenter last night, and he talked about how the Suns looked like the more prepared team.
There was 2 completely different levels of sharpness in this game. I'm sorry, Phoenix was just so much more prepared, so much more confident, so much more sure of what they were doing, what they were trying to accomplish. They basically had Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton be the absolute best versions of themselves, and Devin Booker does what he does. He got to his number. He didn't shoot the ball great, but to have your 3 best players play that well. And you look at Milwaukee, Giannis clearly wasn't himself. Chris Middleton was pretty good overall most of the night, and Drew Holiday wasn't very good offensively. He lost his aggressiveness once again. So for me, no comparison in the two teams tonight. That did not feel like, at one point it was 9 with 6 minutes to go. That felt like a 25-point game to me. Phoenix was that much sharper than the Milwaukee Bucks tonight.
It's a great point that he made about the switching. It's a great point he also made about which team was sharper than the other. And then the addition of Giannis, which we'll get to, that's a huge story in this whole thing, is Giannis playing, and also how he said he felt after playing a week after an injury that a lot of us, held our breath wondering, when are we going to see him again? We didn't think it would be this soon, but he was back. But you mentioned the Suns. He mentions the Suns. Let's talk about it. Devin Booker did not shoot well from 3. You said 10 for 10 from the line, and he finished still with 27 points. DeAndre Ayton, you heard Legs mention. Ayton goes for 22 and 19 rebounds, by the way, which is obviously a huge part of the game. When you want to get stops, you got to get the rebounds. And Chris Paul. Chris Paul went for 32 points and 9 assists. 4 or 7 from downtown. And, man, it looked like he went back in time a couple of times, right? When he was getting the matchups he wanted, a ton of ISO scoring. Tons of it in this game for the Suns. They got the matchups they wanted, and Chris Paul was the engine of this team. And eventually he's going to be the facilitator once they start figuring out you got to get the ball out of his hands. But in this first game, what a debut in the NBA Finals for him. Chris Paul dropping 32 points last night in Game 1 for the Suns in their win over the Bucks. Overnight delivery brought to you by USPS. Business is changing, and USPS is changing with it. Find out how at USPS.com/newroots. United States Postal Service, priority you. So, again, we'll do the overreaction thing.
Can't wait.
But from the Suns' perspective, though, This is exactly how you wanted this to go. This is exactly how you wanted this to go because you set the tone already that Chris Paul's the engine. Devin Booker actually can play better, believe it or not. Even after 20, he can play better. And then DeAndre Ayton, who is still a very young player, established himself against a big front line, against Giannis being in the game. So you got a lot of length with the Bucks. 19 rebounds. That means he was a beast. 17 defensive rebounds for him. So it's not like he was getting tips that get you those extra cheap, right? They give you cheap offensive rebounds when you just tip it. No, he was getting defensive rebounds to get the stops you needed. And what a difference maker he is. So for the Suns, they win Game 1 in every series. They did it again, and they set a tone already now for the finals.
Well, it wasn't a big deal last night, but you do wonder in terms of depth. And it probably will not be a large deal. I remember when I used to substitute teacher, it was small deal or little deal. It's a small deal. Dario Saric, the injury, just in terms of the depth, and if DeAndre Ayton should get into foul trouble. So of course you hope that he's able to get back out on the floor for the squad. But as much as we talk about the headliners, campaign, big time 3 and then an idiot 3, but that's okay. The mistake response was there from this Phoenix Suns squad, but you got good minutes from him. You got great minutes from Cam Johnson.
Right.
So to me, just as important as obviously CP3 and Booker are, the depth of this Phoenix Suns squad is, for me, one of the reasons in which I favor them to win the series, because they play with such tremendous continuity and confidence. And we talked about it a ton yesterday in the pregame. And then you hear the sound from Book and CP3 about the accountability, about how they, were getting after it. And this dates back to last year's bubble. And if you start the clock from then to now, they have one of the best records overall in the league. So this is a unit that has continued to be called up, if I may use Monty Williams' phrase, for this moment. And yesterday, they look like that.
Yeah, it's incredible. Again, throw all the asterisks out, whatever you want to say. You get to this point now, it's going to be about winning and winning the chip, getting that trophy, and the Suns still look like that team that can do it. Now, we thought without Giannis, maybe the Bucks wouldn't be the same team, and that's why the Suns can win the series. But Giannis played, and it didn't seem like to make a difference. Or did it? That's something that Monica wants to talk about coming up. DeAndre Ayton, again, 22 points, 19 rebounds while shooting 80% from the field.
I told you I put some respect on this man's name.
Around the basket, he does not miss, and that's huge. And that's also Stats Incredible, brought to you by My Computer Career, training for a better life. So let's do it. Let's do it. The overreactions from Game 1. Because
let's go.
You watch the game, and you're like, this is how I feel about this.
Let's go.
Right away, that's how we feel. So we'll discuss that. overreactions and yours as well. 888-729-3776, 888-SAY-ESPN. So that we will give you after I give you this from Straight Talk. So it's time for some Straight Talk. Because he's not. He said he felt fine. Well, we'll play that in a second. But if he's not himself, defense is going to be how you win this thing. And
Golly.
118. That's not good defense.
Get it done. No.
Giving up 30 points in the first quarter. But as we like to do, let's overreact.
Shall we?
But before we overreact, let's acknowledge, with Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, that Giannis did play. And we weren't sure if he was going. He went from doubtful, right, to questionable, and then he was in the lineup after trying it out in pregame. He played 35 minutes, 20 points, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, 7 for 12 from the free throw line. I laugh because that's a story with him.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And everybody gets to like 13 by the time he shoots it. It should be a violation every time. Are we counting too fast?
But do you notice some of the fans, like there's part of the fan base that tries to count like the official and slow, and then the rest of the fan base is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
They speed it up. But it's like the official, usually like they count
the cadence,
with the hand. But the officials aren't. They're actually pumped, like they'll clench their fist and do their count that way, so it's visual, but they don't want to make it obvious. Imagine officials just go like Joey Crawford would be like,
it's like an orchestra. Yeah. So funny, my dad's an official. When this first became a thing, he was like in the house like, you're not supposed to, you don't start as soon as he catches the ball, you give him a beat. Like I was like, Dad, you do your official thing. It's still right there on your official thing.
Yeah.
I know the fans are fast, but in legit time, it's a little slow.
But Giannis did play, like I mentioned, he did play, which for him, as you hear him talk about right now, was a bit of a surprise.
My knee felt good. Obviously, when you go and play a game, you never know what's going to happen. A play with Jay Crowder might happen, or the same play that happened that night. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. I'm just happy that I'm out there, and I'm able to, help my teammate in any way possible. I feel good. I don't feel pain. I can run, I can jump. I can set screens, I can rebound the ball, I can do stuff. So I'm good, I'm happy that I'm out there. At the end of the day, I haven't watched the clip, but when the play happened, I thought I'm going to be out for a year, So I'm just happy that two games later, I'm back.
He thought he'd be out for a year.
Scary.
We all probably did, right?
That injury looked nasty.
And he didn't watch the replay, but we all saw it maybe way too many times. Like, I'm that guy because I've been through ACLs a couple of times. Like, the minute you see it the first time, I'm like, nope, don't need to see it. I know what that is. I can feel it.
Why are we so obsessed with replays on injuries?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird.
What was the worst injury you ever had?
Personally?
Yeah.
I broke my nose my freshman year. Caught an elbow.
Ouch.
And I just remember being on the ground like, I'm fine. My teammate's like, no, you're not. There's blood everywhere.
Why is your nose pointing that way?
It's like, I'm fine. I just got hit in the nose, right? No.
Yeah. No. It's there's something about when you've had a devastating injury, and like the first time I injured my knee, I didn't know how bad it was. Like, I know it hurt, but I was so used to just, I'm fine. I get up, I'm fine. I got to walk it off. The second time it happened, I knew.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it hurt more. And from that moment on, when someone had a knee injury in any sport, like, I felt it. And I don't know if anybody else out there understands what I'm talking about. If you ever had a devastating knee injury or whatever it is, or any type of injury, shoulder, no matter what it is, when you see it, somehow, some way, you feel it again.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch the replay, nothing.
My broken nose was the most gruesome, but I did play with I played with and probably still have a partially torn labrum. Doesn't matter much now because I don't have to do that. But I feel you. Anytime a guy's like, at one point in that game, Giannis was kind of doing this with his shoulder. And I was like, uh-oh, is that a stinger? What's going on?
Oh, God, yeah. Well, that was Straight Talk, by the way. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. So you heard from Giannis. Now hear from us on our irrational, as always, takes, reactions, predictions after just one game.
Inspired by these Twitter streets.
What do you got for me?
Completely inspired by these Twitter streets where people are bugging. If you walk into this segment at the wrong point, you're just going to be lost. I'm not this crazy. Overreaction. You ready? The Bucks are better without Giannis on the floor because Drew Holiday can be aggressive and he makes everyone better.
Dare you?
Boom!
So Monica says the Bucks are better off without Giannis. Just for the record, that's what she said. Now, Drew Holiday, though, after having 2 fantastic games to close out,
you can't have them both, Hon. They need the ball.
4 of 14, 0 of 4. Now he almost had triple. He had 10 points, which is not great, but 7 rebounds, 9 assists. But you're right. He suddenly went back to like sort of forgotten man again.
Table setter.
Now, can I just dump a little water on though on your theory?
Listen, dude, overreaction.
Game 1
Go for
on
it.
court, Giannis. The Bucks are +1 in Game 1. When he was off the court, -14.
Hey, you want to fall in love with stats? That's a great sound. Don't fall in love with that box score and those stats and those numbers.
I'm
What
the
am I
numbers
telling
guy
you?
though. I give you useless stats. You know me.
Right, you do love your useless stats. I
Yeah.
don't think they're useless. Not shout out to Wally. Be nice, Wally.
Wally's our
I don't
back.
think they're useless, but they lost. I will say that. And so therefore, my overreaction.
Gotcha.
Nailed it.
Okay, Giannis.
Boom.
So from now on, Bucks, Milwaukee, tell Giannis, sit this one out. We're going to take it from
We
here.
got it.
They're better off without you.
That's it.
Meanwhile, I'll give you mine.
I was gonna say, don't leave me on this overreaction island.
No,
please.
please. I watched it like watching that game last night. I kept saying to myself, "This series is over. Series is over." And I said it yesterday. This series could. Now I thought without Giannis, it could be a sweep. I really believe that because the Suns just are this team. They are brimming with confidence. They've got a leader that they all believe in, that they all rally around. I don't know if the Bucks have that kind of inspiration where it's like they rally around somebody. Giannis returns and everybody's like Drew's like, oh great, guess we're not running anymore. Right? I guess the middle's not
There
going to be
goes
open
my
for my
scoring.
drives
Right.
anymore. So it's sort of like that wasn't that inspiration. There was no here comes Willis. Like there was none of that happening in this, right? But the Suns have that in Chris Paul. They have that. And you see the way they play. You see the way Monty Williams had that team prepared. Do we trust Mike Budenholzer? What really has saved the Bucks in the playoffs? Injuries. The Bucks are here because they were able to their opponents, again, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, they lose those two guys. Kevin Durant almost eliminated you guys if it wasn't for his toe touching the line.
Big
You wouldn't
foot.
even be here. So adjustments? Really? Like that's what we're going to talk about. What adjustments were they making against the Hawks? Here's the adjustment. Trae Young got hurt. That's the adjustment. So to me, I don't have that kind of faith in the coaching of the Milwaukee Bucks. Therefore, my hot take after one game, series is over.
We are on fire.
Am I crazy though? Like no, I'm not. Of course I'm crazy. You can definitely say that. But that's how I felt after
I mean,
one
are
game.
you?
I was say, I don't know if your take is that hot. Like, and the hot
Now, will it
meter.
be? I don't think it'll be a sweep. Maybe not. But I mean, how? What are they going to keep switching? We're going to keep doing that. That's going to work. You're going to keep poor Bobby Porter's like he's just
Bobby
looking down the
Porter.
barrel of a Chris Paul who's backing. Chris Paul's backing
Hey.
up like oh.
And Bobby's like
Licking
in a
his
stance.
chops.
Like the only thing missing in terms of Bobby's effort
Slap the
yesterday
floor.
was slapping the floor. Literally. Like he's trying. Poor little Tink. Poor little Tink Tink.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's one of those where even his teammates are going, throw the damn towel.
My
Like
bad.
just foul him, just foul him.
Bro.
Yeah. So that's how I feel. That's how you feel. How do you feel? 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Keyshawn J. Will Zubin, presented by Progressive Insurance. You can save big when you bundle your auto, home, motorcycle, RV, or boat. Visit Progressive.com. So one Olympic hopeful won't be running at all this year in Tokyo. We'll tell you why after Monica has this from Rumble On.
Do you have a motorcycle, an ATV, or a provoking conversation? Yes. Yesterday, a very interesting, apparently slightly polarizing question was posed on the Twitter streets. And it was about your practices when you go to a restaurant that serves bread before you take your order.
It's pretty much every restaurant.
Right? Like Cheesecake Factory, Outback, name your spot, right? Do you immediately eat the bread when it comes to your table? And is that tacky or not, Alan Hahn?
Do I immediately? Yeah, if you're hungry, like if
Yeah.
you show up and you're like, I'm been waiting all day,
All
like
day, looking forward to
whatever
this.
you're doing, like you spend the whole day doing something with shopping or whatever it is, and you're like, let's just go to a restaurant, and yeah. That bread doesn't even, the plate doesn't even touch the table, and if you have kids like I do. Like there might be a crumb left. Like their hands just reaching, ripping it apart, and next thing you know, there's nothing left of it.
nothing
It's gone.
Yeah.
So yeah. The bread is fair game the minute it goes down on the table.
All
My
right.
opinion.
Okay.
Yours?
I'm with you. Cheesecake Factory, the brown loaf with the little oats on top. Like that's my fave. Outback, the whole thing is brown.
Now I don't
Outback.
believe though that you
Pumpernickel
should overfill it. You should not fill up on bread because then it ruins the meal.
That is wise. I do not always take that advice. because the bread's delicious.
But all right, so what's the poll saying?
So the poll is that apparently that is tacky and that you should wait 5 minutes before indulging in the bread. Now, of this lovely person that put this Twitter poll out,
who has no kids, clearly.
I guess maybe. She got over 235,000 votes.
Wow.
97% of people said that you eat the bread immediately.
Yeah.
There's a 3% that apparently stands with her in solidarity that it is tacky to immediately grab the bread.
This 3% is definitely people that go hungry.
Listen.
Like, you're not going to get any. And by the way,
it's kind of free. You're paying for it.
No,
but like,
nothing. Yeah, there's no such thing as free. But okay. But still, normally when you get said bread, it is warm.
Hopefully.
If it's not,
what restaurant are you at?
Bring that bread. Exactly. But still, it's usually warm, and when it's warm, it's at its best.
Exactly.
Why am I waiting for it to cool off? Do I wait for the ice to melt in my water before I take a drink?
Listen, I don't know. I don't know about this logic. You know, every day Twitter poses some great questions. It's.
No, I don't like that one.
I had never thought that you don't grab the bread immediately.
Great question. It's one of those where you're like, this seemed like an obvious answer, but apparently 3%, which is a very, like, I would have never guessed the 3%. I figured 99%, because there's always the 1% of trolls that are like, I'm going to ruin this one. Like, I'm the one guy that's not going to vote for Derek Jeter for the Hall of Fame, right? Because I don't think he deserves 100%. There's always that one person that does that. But 3%?
Listen, now it automatically sent me on the rabbit hole of where's the best bread.
Oh, boy.
Longhorn Steakhouse has really good rolls. I think the cheesecake bread is my favorite, the brown one, because it's warm and it's put a little butter on it. And
Well, that's
get it going.
You got to tell me, are you serving it warm? If you're not, send it back.
Well, who doesn't serve? I'm trying to think of anybody that doesn't serve.
Now, here's the other thing. If it's the bread thing, what about if you're going to like a Mexican place and they give you salsa?
Gone. I'm crushing
and chips?
them on
Am
site.
I supposed to wait on the salsa and chips?
Listen, anything you bring me before my food comes is gone.
Especially when the chips are warm, like right out of
And can I have an order of guac to go with this salsa, this little teeny? And can you bring me some more salsa because this little teeny tiny thing is not going to cut it for me? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Like, in fact, like then when like the meal comes, it's almost like I'm already full on salsa and chips. Just keep bringing that. Keyshawn J. Will zoom in. We're coming to you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17, and now you wonder why I'm hungry. Because it seems to be all we ever talk about.
It's a hungry show. Hungry Wednesday.
And Key, please stop sending pictures of food that you're making this morning. So again, the bread conversation in one hand, the NBA Finals in the other. So Giannis at the free throw line has become a thing now. And I wanted to see, because Hawks fans really got into it. Hawks fans were counting a 10-second violation that Giannis did actually get called for, which became a big story at the free throw line. He's a terrible free throw shooter to begin with, which that's another story. But this has become such a thing, and I keep asking, when has a MVP in NBA history been, or any sport, been treated with such disrespect? Like, I mean, mocked. I've never seen a guy who was considered one of the best players in his sport openly mocked by people. Mocked. Not jeered. They're mocking him. Counting down the free throws. You have 10 seconds to shoot it. The crowd seems to always get to like 13 or 14. It sounds something like this. Take a listen to this from ESPN Radio.
And that's going to be a problem all night long.
Pretty small guy. Great defender. The Phoenix fans were paying attention. Here we go. They're going to count to 10 here. And a louder count than I've heard. First free throw from Giannis. Too strong off the heel. Might have even kissed the backboard a little bit.
Barely
that one went off the board.
Right, the free throw. This is the first attempt that he took in the series. And everybody, like, I was wondering, you heard Kester and also Doris was saying the same thing, like, let's see. Because it's not like there's any history with Giannis in Phoenix. There's no history. They play each other twice. That's it. So the fact that the crowd picked up, and kudos again to the Phoenix crowd, but they pick up on what the Atlanta fans really picked up on, and it's become a thing now. I feel like this is going to follow Giannis everywhere he goes now.
It's done.
This is officially a thing.
It's done.
It's embarrassing. And if you're like Giannis, do me a favor. Whatever you do this offseason, win a chip or not, get to the freaking free throw line and put an end to this, because this is ridiculous now.
It's done. Atlanta was the first fan base to do it. Or, yeah, because it happened in Miami, and Miami didn't have a chance to chime in.
Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn did it.
Brooklyn did it? Okay.
Yeah, Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn really turned it into a thing.
Listen.
But Atlanta picked up, and Atlanta was the whole building.
His nickname is about to be free throw countdown or like violation. Something like this is going to stick. This is done until your man shoots 80% from the free throw line, at which point I am not sure that's going to happen.
Yikes. Yeah, but I just have a problem with that. That is a fundamental skill of the sport.
A problem with his free throw shooting or the fans?
Everything. No, not the fans.
Oh, okay.
But the problem is that it's become so bad. But it's not just the misses. That's different. Like he's going to win somebody a free hamburger in one of these arenas. You know that Philly does that, right?
Free Chick-fil-A in DC.
Right.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A, they always pick somebody. He'll always be picked, and if he misses two, everybody goes nuts. But this is much different. You are one of the best players in the league, and you have fans. They openly mock you about a fundamental of the sport. That should be an afterthought. Why do you take so long? And it's got to be in his head.
Yeah,
I know he made the second free throw. I get it. But he made it ugly.
Yeah. And
I got a problem with this. I'm sorry. I got a problem
Shaq couldn't shoot free throws.
Nobody mocked him.
I mean,
yes, I know hack a Shaq happened,
but nobody would you rather be hack a Shaq?
But nobody mocked him for it.
Well, he didn't have time violations.
And I know that's the point. It's not about missing. It's about how long he takes, and everybody knows he's going to miss.
Well,
so it just turns into now an unnecessary embarrassment.
But the adjustment is not going to come in season though, so we got to roll with it.
Oh, it's not going to. No, of course not.
However many games there are going to be left.
Thing now.
It's definitely a thing. Now, all the smart basketball minds have said, clean up, speed up his routine. I was a 5 dribble, deep breath, knock it down, right? But I also was a good free throw shooter. I think for him, this is the routine as it stands, and it has gotten him to what, 60, high 60%, mid 60% from the free throw line. So it's not going to change right now. I don't know if it's going to change, period, honestly, because changing that routine, it's just not part of his game.
I don't think he's going to change it, but I just think it's amazing that it's become now officially a thing. Like that's you don't find it.
I wonder if it'll become reverse psychology though.
You played a high level of college basketball at Georgetown. You are the third most famous basketball player in the history of Georgetown basketball.
Wow.
And you're climbing up the ladder, by the way, your fame. But it's still like you understand that moment on the free throw line there's not a lot of moments in sports. You're at bat at baseball, probably again, all eyes on you kind of thing. But in the sport of basketball, where it's very much the ball's moving, the team, everything's happening. 10 players on the court. When you're at the free throw line,
solo.
Yeah, it's you.
It's just you.
Like even at the small level I played at, like I've been in situations where people chant stuff at me, wasn't necessarily nice, but I thrived. I love that kind of thing, like because I'm like, hey, they're paying attention to me. They know who I am. So for me, like I banked in a free throw one time when people were chanting things at me purposely, and my coach yelled at me and pulled me out of the game.
Wow.
He was like, "What are you doing, you idiot?" I'm like, "Well, I thought I was being funny."
Wow.
But this is something at the highest level of the sport. And it's become like comedy. You don't find that to be embarrassing?
It is. I think it is what it is. Like he's not a good free throw shooter. If this is the routine that got him to one of his better percentages since he's been in the league, then stay with it. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing for me as someone who shot over 80% from the free throw line. But for somebody that struggles, you got to roll with the punches. I wonder if it becomes reverse psychology and fans stop counting. Like at this point, counting becomes a part of the routine for Giannis, right?
Can you quickly? I know we don't. But can you quickly explain though? Because you said your dad's an official.
My dad's an official, and he's like,
because the crowd gets like 13.
He was beside himself when it got called in the Miami series. He's like, you don't do that. Like you warn a guy as official. He was a big relationships with players guy as official. So he was always pulling guys to the side, like jaw jagging, whatever. So he's like, you let him know. That's an MVP. Like you just tell him you're getting close. You don't just call it. So he's literally sitting at home doing the count, to see what the count is. And he was really disappointed that it actually got called, and he's kind of disgusted that it's become a thing. But to me, as a competitor, you take every advantage that you can get. I do not blame Caron Butler one bit. Point this thing out.
Not at all. But it is, like I said, it has become a thing now in the finals, and we'll watch it as it continues. When he's on the road. At home, they're very respectful and no one counts. Coming up next, the beautiful mystery. Will Aaron Rodgers play in week 1? Well, we don't know, and apparently he doesn't either. We'll explain next. KJZ, ESPN Radio, and Sirius XM, Channel 80.